Hello there everyone and welcome to Ethereal Roses layering guide video. So first off, I'm going to start with the first flower that we have. This is the largest one, and I am going to start with the base layer. So for this one, I am going to be using the pink pearl ink to add that lightest shade in. I'm then going to take the second layer, and now this is going to line up around that bottom edge and the top as well. For this layer, I am going to be using the Coral Bliss ink to add in that darker shade to the image. Next up, I'm going to take the third layer. Again, this is going to line up around that left-hand edge again, and also the top part of the flower. For this one, I will be using the Heartbeat ink. So I'm just going to ink that up and then pop that into place again, lining up that left-hand edge and the top portion of the flower. So once that's done, I can then take the fourth layer. Now this is going to line up on that left-hand petal and also the top part of the flower, and also over here on that large petal that we have on the right. For this one, I will be using the Vineyard Berry ink. So this is going to add in some really dark tones and shades to this one, so it looks like that the flower has got really great amount of depth. We then have a fifth layer for this flower, and that's just going to nestle in within the center portion of the flower. For this one, I am going to be using the Rhodolite just to add that really dark red tone there. I'm then going to move on to the second flower, and I'm going to be using the same colors as I did for the first one. So for the base layer, I'm going to stamp that in using some of the pink pearl ink. I'm then going to take the second layer. Now this is going to fit around the one that we've just stamped, so this is going to fit perfectly onto place there. For this one, I will be using the Coral Bliss ink to add that one in. So I'm just going to stamp that one down within the image that we've just stamped. I'm then going to take the third layer for this flower, and this is going to line up along that top edge of the flower. And for this one, I am going to be using the Heartbeat ink. So I'm just going to pop that one into place, just lining up that top portion of the image. I'm then going to take the next layer. Now this is going to fit mostly along the top part of the image, but it does add some shadow effects to these bottom petals at the bottom as well. So I am just going to ink this one up using the Vineyard Berry ink. So this is the fourth layer that we are adding in now. So I'm just going to add in the ink and then pop that one back into place. This second flower here also has a fifth layer, and again this is going to line up with that center portion of the rose and also these back petals that you can see just at the top. And for this one, again, I will be using the Rhodolite ink just to pop that in. So once that one has been stamped into place, I can then move on to the third flower. So this is the smallest flower in the set. So for the base of this one, I will be using the pink pearl ink just as before. I'm then going to take the second layer, and again this is going to line up around the top part and also the left hand edge. For this one, I will be using the Coral Bliss, just as I did for the further flowers that we have done, the previous flowers, sorry. So once that has been stamped, I'm then going to take the third layer, and again this is going to line up along that top edge. For this one, I will be using the Heartbeat ink just to add in that darker shade there. This flower then has a fourth layer, so this is the final layer for this one, and this is just going to go in with the center just to kind of look like we are looking down into the top of that rose. And for this one, I will be using the Vineyard Berry ink. So once that has been added to the center there, I can then move on to the fourth and final flower. This is the one that's kind of more like a bud. So for the base layer of this one, I will be using that pink pearl ink again. I'm then going to take the second layer. This is going to line up along that bottom kind of zigzag edge as well as the top. So for this layer here, I will be using the Coral Bliss ink. So the same as before. Once that's been done, I'm then going to take the third layer, again lining this up with that zigzag edge that we have at the bottom. For this one, I will be using the Heartbeat ink to add in this darker shade just into place there. Once that one has been stamped, I can then move on to the fourth layer, and this is just going to add in that darker shading into the center and just into those two bottom points that we have at the bottom of the bud. I can then move on to the leaf bud that we have just underneath the flower bud. So for the first layer, I will be using the sweet leaf ink. So I'm just going to ink that one up, and this is just going to kind of nestle in within that zigzag edge that we have on that little flower bud from before. Once that's done, I'm then going to move on to the just green ink, and this is going to add in the shading onto that little leaf bud that we have underneath the flower. I'm then going to move on to the double leaf that we have in the stamp set. So for the base, I have gone with the sweet leaf. The second layer of this is going to line up along the stem of the leaf and also at the bottom of each of the leaves there. So for that one, I am going to be using the just green to add in that darker shading. I'm then going to move on to the smaller of the double leaves that we have. Again, as before, I'm using the sweet leaf for the base, and then the second layer is going to line up along the top edge of the larger flower on the left, and then the bottom edge of the leaf on the right. And again, as before, we'll be using the just green to add that one in. We also have a third layer for this little cluster here, and I will be using the little added veins and details to the leaves using the hunter green ink. I'm then going to move on to the singular leaf that we have in the stamp set. So for the base, I will be using the sweet leaf as before. The second layer is going to line up along the top edge of the little leaf and also the bottom edge of the stem. So for this one, I will be using the just green as I have done with the other leaves before, just to add that one into place there. And then going to move on to the largest cluster of leaves that we have. So for the base layer, I will be using the sweet leaf ink to add that into place there. And then going to take the second layer. This is going to line up around all of those little leaves that we have on the cluster. For this one, I will be using the just green ink to add that darker colouring and shade to this beautiful little image here. So I'm just going to pop that into place. We then have a third layer for this, and this is going to line up along the two left-hand side leaves, just adding in those little veins to those flowers. And for this one, I will be using the hunter green ink to add in those really dark tones there. And that is all of the layering complete. We really do hope this video has helped. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again really, really soon. Bye bye.